I want to get into some of the fitness industry stuff, but we've kind of burning through a lot of time. But it's very interesting. But I want to get into some of the stuff as it relates to your report. But I guess it comes full circle, and maybe it's a good transition. But what it seems is, and maybe it is a different industry, is that we've got the space that certainly I'm very invested in, is the traditional fitness market. And I know now that takes a lot of different forms. It doesn't necessarily all happen in a fitness club now. There's part of the expansion seems to be fitness in other areas, from apartments to businesses and all kinds of things. So that's definitely changing. But I suppose if you're an owner of a fitness club or fitness chain, some of this power that is really important for you to improve the quality of your product, to justify why you should be open if there was ever a pandemic again, seems to be kind of slipping out of your hands and going into the hands of other people. And it's almost like you probably, in some ways, you don't want that. I was talking to Mike from My Zone, and he had some fantastic information that most health club operators don't have. But it's almost like, can you do anything about it? Or if not, how do you kind of embrace that and make sure that, this doesn't run away with you, and then you become this sort of appendage on the end of where everything's happening?
Well, that almost brings us back to the starting point of the audit. So we've been doing the audit for the last 20 years. So we talk to every fitness site each year, and we've improved the way that we do it. Obviously, each year there's learning that goes on behind the scenes, and generally speaking, brands and sites are very supportive to produce the State of the Industry report, which is being launched this year on the 26th of May. And I'll send you more details of that. It's going to be launched both in the City of London, but also virtually. So you'll be able to watch the launch. So after 30 years of collecting data and analyzing the data, what we've realized is that we have to collect more data more often, which is like a catchphrase, that's a common catchphrase that we all know. And to aid this collective knowledge that the government are really interested in. So the way we're going to do that is by developing the algorithms that we currently use that will trawl more social media sites more often for fitness trends and for customer behavior. And that way, we're going to gather a lot more about what the consumer is doing as opposed to what the industry is doing.
That's going to be the sort of evolution of your business then, is it, in terms of what you're doing with your reports, is just sort of being more on top of it all the time, as opposed to this being a once a year big project?
Exactly, yeah. So we need to be able to publish the data at any time. So the whole business plan is changing.
So coming back to that original question then, and then sort of linking it into your report. Obviously, I know you've not got all this data, but in one of the videos you did early on in the year, you do talk about some of the changes that you're starting to see post-pandemic. So one of the things I was curious to talk about is, you mentioned that in terms of returning, and this does plug into our previous conversation, is that the younger people are coming back a lot quicker than the older ones, and that's not just in fitness, that seems to be across the board. Was that sort of immediately after that, or is that still something that is there, and there's still a lot of work to be done to get sort of more of the older people back into some of the businesses?
Obviously it's a generalization, and it's certainly true to say that it is probably the most complicated that it's ever been, because we also have obviously the you were talking to Fitness First a few weeks ago, and they split their sites into 3 different levels, and so people that have got residential sites have had a lot easier reopening, whereas the city sites are still, I shouldn't say struggling, but are having a more difficult time. So city sites have to get used to the fact that people are, generally speaking, in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So that means if you're a part of a brand and you've got a residential site that you can offer them, then that's okay. If you're an independent in the city, then that's going to affect your business. And we're seeing, we don't have the numbers yet, but we're seeing that the independents are probably struggling more than any other sector.
Yeah, I did an interview with a lady from ClassPass a little while ago, and she was saying similar things, that the more the sort of suburbs and out of the city locations were definitely doing a lot better, which I suppose with people having to stay at home or work from home and lockdown would obviously make a lot of sense. And I guess there's a lot of people have got quite comfortable with not actually going into the office, and their patterns are changing. When you say independence, though, do you is that purely down to location? Because in my experience, the people that seem to be coming out of this quite quickly, all guns blazing, are the smaller independents, the smaller personal trainers that have got into the industry, the smaller group exercise people. I've not broken it down into where those people are based, but in our business, that is where the in the sort of membership type of businesses, that's where all the activity seems to be at the moment.
Yeah, so I think that geographically, the location plays a really important part post-pandemic. So we're aware of some incredibly successful independents, and that's why I say it is the most complicated report that we've ever done. So the analysis that the data scientists are working on, it has got them scratching their heads, and so we're going to create probably going to create a new topic called temporary closure. So a site that hasn't really opened since the pandemic, but where the owners tell us it's not closing.
Where the owners tell say that again.
So we know that it's not going to close. So
right.
So we have this incredibly rigid way. We can't close an existing site unless we know in some categorical way that it is actually closed, that it's not being repurposed in some way, that it's not going to just change its name, that it's not going to be taken over by a bigger brand. We need to. So a closure is a very definite event on the database, and so, as I say, we're now going to have almost certainly a new category called temporary closures.
With the closures, I have seen some reports that have been out there, and people talking that there's been around about 30% of the industry that's totally gone, clubs that will never open again. Have you got anything at this stage to know whether that number's sort of reasonably accurate without sort of spilling the beans on what's in the report?
No. I mean, it's just too early to to say I have no idea where that figure came from. I think it was almost a publicity stunt in
Really?
an attempt, yeah, almost to to push the government to hell. It's a bit like the arts that saying that half the theatres are going to close forever. Um, but no, at the moment we just don't know.
No. Okay. And with what you're doing then, do you know of any other information out there that is being reported then that's highly extensive and as accurate as what you're going to be producing then, that you're aware of?
Well, the other best example is Germany, who recently produced their report. That's a very substantial, and again, that's produced by the German Association.
So that one's pretty accurate then, if you want to find out what's happening there as an example market.
Yeah. The problem with collating in different countries is that there is no agreed definition for what is a health club. And so some countries put in ladies circuit training, for example, and some countries leave them out. There's just no agreed methodology. So that it just becomes difficult to compare one country against another.